So, this picture gives you a glimpse about what I want to talk about today. And that subject is self-confidence. So, you get the idea. The kitten looks into the mirror and he sees a lion. He sees a lion, he thinks he's a lion, he feels like a lion. But it occurred to me, what about the other way around? What if the lion is sitting on the other side of the mirror looking at the kitten? Then what? By the same token, the lion now thinks that he's a kitten. And that's a pretty scary concept because what you see in the mirror is what you perceive. What you see is what you believe. And more than that, what if a kitten is behaving like a lion in a lion's environment? Now, without the physical attributes and the skills of a lion, then it won't be long before the rest of the group will just treat him like another loud kitten and won't take him seriously. And so it takes a little bit more than self-confidence to be successful. And conversely, what about the lion who thinks that he's a kitten, but he spends his whole life looking for courage and confidence, and like the lion in The Wizard of Oz, and all he really has to do is roar. Now, the dictionary describes self-confidence as a feeling of trust in one's own abilities, qualities, and judgment. So it's a feeling. Self-confidence is a feeling, but managing your feelings, that's a skill. It's a life skill. So if it's a skill, it means that it can be learnt, it can be developed, and it can be improved. So that's the idea. Now, for me, as I said, I did work at the European Space Agency for 14 years as an engineer. And now I work at the European Commission in research and innovation. And for me, it really takes three fundamental things to be successful. And I call them the 3 C's. So the first is competence. You have to really know what you're talking about for people to take you seriously, at least long term. You might be able to bluff it for a while, but not long term. You also need a little bit of courage to take that step into the unknown, the big meeting, the meeting with the delegations or the job interview. You need a little bit of courage. And thirdly, you need confidence. Confidence is the thing that underpins everything. It's that, confidence is that intangible magic which turns your thoughts into actions. When we're confident, we move forward. When we're not confident, we stay still and we hesitate and we hold ourselves back and we don't move and we stay within our own comfort zone. Now, for me, confidence is something that I've really tried to learn and develop as I've got older. Now, when I was 11, I went to a comprehensive school in the UK. And this place was filled with kittens who thought they were lions and vice versa. And doing the job that I do now, a lot of people think that I went to a really good school. And in fact, one of my colleagues actually recently said, "Oh, Amanda, at school, what was your school motto?" And I'm like, school motto. I'm not completely sure that we had one. But had we had one, it would have probably been, "It wasn't me, I didn't do it." But what I realized, and one thing I wanted to say was that I did a TEDx talk back at TEDx Liverpool this year. And this really told the story of how I got interested in space and how I went from this normal comprehensive school to working at the European Space Agency, because everybody said that it was impossible. But what I've realized is that my reaction to feedback is drastically different depending on how confident I'm feeling. And I think of my confidence a little bit like a river. So when the river is high, when the water level is high, when my confidence level is high, negative comments in situations that happen every day, you know what I mean, they just kind of flow over the top of me and they don't bother me and they're gone. It's no problem. But when my confidence level starts to slip and the confidence and the water level starts to drop, this exposes the rocks in the riverbed underneath. And these negative comments that flowed so easily over me before, suddenly they start hitting on the rocks, they start getting stuck and tangled up, and I can't shake them. So it's my responsibility to recognize when the confidence level is slipping and when the water level is dropping and take action to correct it. Now, as I say, I work for the European Space Agency now, but my first taste of engineering was something rather more down to earth. I was 15 when I did my first work experience from school, and I did it in a brewery. And this is in the late 80s, so it was a little while ago now. I was the first girl, back then, because I was 15, I was the first girl to be in this engineering department. And it took all of my courage and confidence to turn up on the first day. But it was actually made quite easy because I was given two options. I could either go and work in a preschool for a little while, dealing with babies and toddlers, or I could go and work in this engineering department, understanding and learning how beer was made. I didn't have to think about that for too long. But turning up on the first day, first of all, the overalls that they gave me were too big, so I had to go to the stores. I was issued with a belt, and then I was fine. And the safety shoes they gave me were too big, and they had to be ordered. Now, what I hadn't realized, and the guys told me later at the end of the work experience, they had been told that they weren't allowed to swear in front of me, which actually didn't last that long. But also they had to take down all the little girly pictures and calendars and things like that. And there was a little bit of resentment because they didn't see why they should have to change their environment for me. And they would have preferred a male work experience student. Now, I remember walking into a meeting and they were having a problem with, there was a problem in the loading bay. And me, just with fresh eyes and always happy to take things apart and look at stuff, I could see that there was at least one or two different solutions they could try. And I just needed some courage to say something. So I took the plunge and I said something. And one of the engineers looked at me, and I'll always remember it, he looked at me like this. And he said, "The problem with you is you want to be a man." And I'm like, oh. Now everybody was looking at me, and I knew that I had to say something. So I said the only thing that came into my head. I looked at him and I smiled and I went, "Well, that makes two of us then, doesn't it?" Everybody started to laugh, and the guy grinned and he went, "Oh, I like you." And I didn't have any problems after that. Everybody settled down and it was fine. Now, the brewery, they made not just beer, but also fizzy drinks. And on the last day, the guys clubbed together and they bought me crates of cola, lemonade, orangeade. They packed my mum's car full of all of this stuff as a thank you. They actually said that they would be happy to offer me further work if I wanted work in the summers or whatever. And also they would be happy to work with a girl again because it wasn't as bad as they thought. Thanks, guys. But changing people's attitudes, changing people's perceptions, this builds your confidence. And it gave me a lot of courage to start thinking that actually I quite enjoyed that, and that was interesting, learning how the process of making beer, etc. Maybe science and engineering, maybe this is something for me. Now, later on, a couple of years later, I went for a job for an industrial placement before I went to university. It was an engineering company. I had 2 interviews. And at the end of the second interview, they actually said that unfortunately they couldn't offer me the job. Because I was female, I wouldn't fit into the engineering department. That's what they said. Now, this is my sense of humor. I thought this was quite funny because, I mean, clearly I was female before the first interview. It's not like I'm hiding it. You know, my name's not John on my CV. So I thought this was a little bit ridiculous, to be honest. And my attitude is I worry about stuff that I can control. And there's a really nice quote that I think sums this up. When someone tells me no, it doesn't mean that I can't do it. It simply means I can't do it with them. And that's what I thought. So I continued applying for jobs, for placements before going to university. And I ended up working for a company in the steel industry in the north of England. 200 guys and me on the shop floor. This was an absolutely great experience, increased my competence and my confidence. It was a much better placement than the other one. So actually, sometimes the universe speaks in mysterious ways. The comedy of that particular placement was there were no women's toilets for the engineering staff at all. And so I said to my engineering manager, well, you know, what am I supposed to do? And the bathroom was next door to the office, but it didn't have a lock. And my engineering manager said, well, Manda, I guess what you're going to have to do is be quick and whistle loudly. So I said, but there's 23 welders. Can't you put some sort of lock on there? They did, and then it was fine. But you know, what that did was it gave me courage to realize that actually engineering and science was something that I wanted to do. And I ended up going further and studying engineering at university. And going to university, I fell in with a group of people that really got me. And you know, when you're with a group of people that get you, this builds your confidence because you can't do these things on your own. Now, during university, I had to do a couple of work placements more. And one of them was at as a process engineer in a company that dealt with silicon wafers for the computer industry. And I started on the same day as this other guy who was very super confident and very knowledgeable. And to be honest, after a few, I would say probably a few weeks, he'd started to freak me out. Because every question, he seemed to know the answer. And I felt like I was still playing catch-up, learning about all the different chemical processes. And then one day, he turned off a really important machine in the clean room, and it spoiled a batch of the product, and production had to stop. And when he was asked, they said, you know, why did you turn this machine off? He said, well, I knew it was one of the switches, but I couldn't remember which one, so I guessed. Now, two things came to mind. Number one, I couldn't believe that he had just turned off a machine without checking. I mean, to me, that was terrible. But number two, I couldn't believe that I'd spent so much time comparing myself to him, wasting my energy comparing myself to him, when clearly I knew just about as much as he did. And I vowed on that day that I wouldn't compare myself to other people and that I would walk to the beat of my own drum, which is something that I've done ever since. Now, going towards the end of university, I actually realized that I needed to get a really good CV. So I started researching the CVs. The more CVs that the more research I did, the better the CV got, the more job offers I got. And I started helping other people with their CVs. And now CVs have become a little bit of a passion, like you said in the intro. I now speak internationally about CVs and careers. I work with a lot of lions who, when it comes to their CVs, they think that they're kittens. So I feel like it's my job. No, it's my mission. I have to hold up the mirror and let them see the lion for the first time. And when they see how much they have to offer and how much they've actually done, you can actually see the confidence growing. And sometimes the transformation can be amazing because your CV has to be the best version of you on paper. End of story. Now, for me, CV doesn't stand for curriculum vitae. It stands for confidence and validation. Confidence and validation for you to know what you can offer, but also confidence and validation for your potential employer, for them to know that you have the skills that they're asking you to do the job that they're wanting you to do. So armed with a good CV and also a master's degree focused on space mission design and planning from the University of Texas, that also helped. This opened the door for me to start working at the European Space Agency. And after a couple of weeks, my boss had to leave. And he left for over a month. And after a couple of weeks, I'd finished everything that he'd given me. And me being bored is a bad idea. So I started talking to my new colleagues, asking them if I could help them with anything. And one of my colleagues needed help with a project called MEDET. This is MEDET. This is a box, basically, with lots of different experiments on it. It stands for Materials Exposure Degradation Experiment. And this box sits on the outside of the International Space Station, and it has lots of different material samples. And the idea is that you measure the degradation of the materials over time. Now, my boss came back, and the project team, they wanted me to stay on because I got really into this project. Luckily, my boss agreed. So MEDET was launched on the shuttle in 2008, and it was put on the outside of the International Space Station. You can see the Columbus module just here, and here, the little gold box is MEDET. And it was in space for over a year. And it was brought back down to Earth on a different shuttle mission in 2009. And you can see the effect here of MEDET 1 year or 18 months in space. Now, if I'd have waited for my boss to come back, I would have missed this fantastic opportunity. So timing is important. And creating your own opportunities and taking action, this builds confidence. Now, it also enabled me to apply for a job in Earth observation future missions, which I ended up being an engineer in that department for nearly 13 years. Now, in Earth observation future missions, we design and we develop satellite concepts, which some of which are launched and some of which are just studied and developed. And we look at the Earth as a system, so we're looking at Earth system science. And when you're dealing with satellites every day on a global scale, you realize it changes your perspective. You realize that everything is connected. And actually, satellite analogies can be applied to people. So satellites, they fly along a path in space known as an orbit. And if to keep on that path, you have to regularly correct your orbit. Now, if you don't do anything, then you start to drift. And the satellite will eventually be dragged downwards by Earth's gravitational forces. It'll hit the atmosphere and it will get burned up. Now, to maximize mission objectives, satellites often have to change their orbit to look at the Earth in a different way and to take different measurements. But it's up to the satellite to take action, to move itself into the new orbit to take these measurements, to reach its full mission potential. And isn't this the same with us, with people? We're walking along a certain path, and to keep on that path, we have to make regular corrections. And if we don't do anything, then we start to drift. And eventually we get pulled downwards by other people's priorities if they're not aligned with our own, or maybe external forces, until we maybe we don't hit the atmosphere, but maybe we hit a wall. And maybe we don't get burnt up like a satellite, but it's possible we could get burnt out. And to maximize our own mission objectives, then we often, from time to time, it's important to change our orbit. So we look at the Earth from a different point of view. But it's up to us. We have to take action. We have to use energy and effort, just like a satellite, to raise up our orbit so that we're maximizing our mission objectives to reach our full potential. And you can tell when you're changing your orbit because you can feel it right here. It's the butterflies in your stomach. It's the queasy feeling that you get when you're doing something new, or you're meeting new people for the first time. So next time when you get this feeling, it's not nervousness. Just know that you're changing your orbit. So my message is, keep taking action. And with action comes confidence, day after day, action after action. And keep changing your orbit. Try and reach as high as orbit as you can to maximize your own mission objectives and also reach your full potential. And remember, the next time that you look in the mirror, all you have to do is roar. Thank you.